So just by way of reminder, the context of this book is Solomon gets to his old age and he decides to sit down and write this book about what life was like apart from God. He uses that phrase over and over and over again, under the sun. It is life on the horizontal without taking a chance to look at the vertical. It is life without God. It is life apart from God. And he not only sits down to write that, he really desires to warn us, don't make the same mistake I made. He especially has his heart tuned toward the young people. You'll see that when we get to chapter 11 and chapter 12. Now we saw last week where he got so frustrated with life that he said man is no better than an animal. That we're no better off than beast. Solomon is trying to teach us that trying to navigate through this life without God leaves you unhappy, frustrated, discontented, and depressed. That trying to navigate in the world that we live in without God is a miserable endeavor. He also said last week what he's going to say again in chapter 4, but in chapter 3, verse 16 last week, moreover, I saw under the sun the place of judgment, that wickedness was there, and the place of righteousness, that iniquity was there. And so basically he's saying there's no justice. All of the world, including the church house and the courthouse, is full of injustice and unrighteousness. And that's what he's going to get to in chapter 4. I want you to notice what he mentions 3 times in the very first verse, in verse 1. So I returned and considered all the what? Oppressions that are done under the sun, and behold, the tears of such as were oppressed, and they had no comforter, and on the side of their oppressors there was power, but they had no comforter. He says oppressions, the oppressed, and the oppressors. I looked up the word oppress in a 1956 Webster's Dictionary. It said crush, burden, or trample down by abuse of power or authority. To oppress someone is to crush, to burden, or to trample down by use of their power, abuse of their power or their authority, unjust control. But then there's also mental, emotional, and spiritual oppression. That's what I'm seeing more of in the world today. Yes, there's still a lot of physical oppression. There's still war. There are still regimes that keep people down. We'll touch on some of that today. But the mental, emotional, and spiritual oppression is an ugly sight because people seem to be weighed down, overwhelmed, and depressed in a world full of affluence, in a world where we've got it good, in a world where on Thursday, you ate more on Thursday than some people get in a month. And yet people are still oppressed. Solomon says in this world full of oppression, there's no help for those who are oppressed. There's no comforter. That's how I know he's talking about life apart from God. He's talking about life under the sun. Oppression in the Bible points to a way of life where people, certain peoples, maybe people groups and nations are beat down. They are oppressed, if you will. They're treated unfairly. They're abused. They are beaten down. They're persecuted. They're tortured. He calls it in verse 3 an evil work. Verse 3 says, yea, better is he than both they which have not yet been, who hath not seen the evil work. Egypt oppressed the Jews. Remember that? Man, he started saying they're going to have to make more brick and we're not going to get their straw for them. They work longer hours, less pay. Anybody feel oppressed? They keep changing the shift and you don't know what's daylight and what's dark. You don't know if you're working this Saturday, off this Saturday. Egypt oppressed the Jews. So did Syria. So did Babylon. And many other nations oppressed the Jews. Today I think of North Korea. I think of Cuba. I think of a lot of countries where people are beaten down, oppressed. They're not able to go forward. They're not able to enjoy life. Oppression is everywhere. It's severe in some places and less severe in others, but oppression is everywhere, including Carthage, Tennessee. When we think of the atrocities of our history, it's scary at the oppression. Stalin literally starved 7 million people. Starved them. 6 million Jews murdered in Germany in the 1940s. We have a missionary that went to Cambodia. I read about the killing fields, and I read about Pol Pot and that crowd over there, that what they did to people, the most inhumane treatment you could ever imagine. And it goes on in my Father's world. I'm glad she sung that song. These are atrocities. These are oppressions that go on in this world where God sits on the throne of the universe. Atrocities that you and I don't even like to think about, because when we think about them, it creates doubt and it challenges our faith. It's just the way it is. There are companies where some people rise to the top by stepping on others. Yes, oppression. There are political parties that if you don't have the right name or the right amount of money, there are religious groups that oppress people and keep them in the dark. If you've not studied about some of the religious persecution done by different groups to other groups, then you need to read your history. But then there are homes. I said there's oppression everywhere. There are homes where wives are oppressed, beaten down, belittled, treated like a doormat. There are homes where children are constantly, forcefully, and way overdone. They are criticized. And parents and dads usually in particular, who can tell them everything they're doing wrong and never once encourage them. Oppressed children. I've seen oppressed children who have to live like robots. Can't even look the wrong way or they'll be chewed out. That's oppression. Shouldn't be quiet in here. That shouldn't be the case at your house. I'm just telling you, oppression is everywhere, whether it's a company, whether it's a nation, whether it's a religious group, or whether it's a mom and a dad, where the child is ridiculed and belittled so much, he's almost afraid to get out in public. So oppression, it's a difficult subject. I wonder how many of you remember these words, and I'm certain some of you do. Some people say a man is made out of mud. Brother Connie was the first one to get it, I think. A poor man's made out of muscle and blood. Muscle and blood and skin and bones. A mind that's weak and a back that's strong. You load 16 tons and what do you get? Are you getting it yet? Another day older and deeper in debt. It's so hard to read these words without trying to sing it. St. Peter, don't you call me, because I can't go. I owe my soul to the company store. That song was written by Merle Travis in 1945 or 46, made popular by Tennessee Ernie Ford a year later, about the oppression and the abuse of coal miners in Kentucky. They weren't paid money, they were paid in scrip, where they could only go buy certain things with that scrip, but they had to go to the company store to get it. They even rented homes that were owned by the company. Everything they got went back to the company that abused them. A famous song by Tennessee Ernie Ford, written about the abuse and the oppression of coal miners in Kentucky. Solomon says in verse 1, I beheld the tears of the oppressed. They have no comforter. There's no light at the end of the tunnel. There's no hope in sight. He says it's so bad that a man would be better off dead. And he said even better than that was that he would never be born in verse 3. He'd be better off dead or better off never being born. You say nobody ever gets there. Job got there. Job said, I wish the day would have never came where my mother said it's a man-child. Jeremiah got there. Jeremiah said it'd have been a whole lot better if I'd have just never been born. Now, when I read about Job and when I read about Jeremiah, and then I think about Americans and you and I, we who sometimes feel like we've got it rough. It's hilarious. Teenagers in our church who feel oppressed because they can't get a driver's license. They don't have their own room. Mama won't let me have a cell phone. It's really sad how you and I sometimes get depressed over the littlest of things. Jeremiah was persecuted. He was mocked. He was put in prison. He was lowered down into a dungeon to where his feet began to sink in the mire. The mire was swallowing him up. And he was innocent. And God said to Jeremiah, and I don't want you to marry, by the way. You're not going to get to marry. You're going to be persecuted. You're going to be tortured. You're going to be beat down, and you're going to be in prison, and you're going to be in a dungeon sinking in a mire. In the mire. I love the holidays. We had a lot of our families get together, of course, over the holidays, and I watched the kids. I love watching kids. And I was watching my grandkids over the last 2 or 3 days. I won't name any names or I'll get in trouble. One of them was just walking around. Mully grubs. You know what? Mama made her change her shirt. That's enough to just cry over. Boy got mad because he had to put his shoes on. He's mad. Life's rough when you got to put your shoes on. One of them got upset. He couldn't have that third piece of pie. Or that third bowl of ice cream. Life's rough. Aren't we a mess? We're a mess. No, you're not wearing that to church. That's too short. That's too tight. Oh, life's rough. I'm a martyr. I have to dress right. I'm going through the great tribulation. Most of us don't know oppression. We really don't. But Solomon says this world is full of injustice, and at the place of judgment there's wickedness. It was Habakkuk's problem. He wrote an entire book about it, asking this question: why do the righteous suffer, and why do the wicked prosper? Why do good things happen to bad people, and why do bad things happen to good people? If I could explain to you why some of us, including me, are standing here and enjoying the comforts of this place, having eaten like kings for the last few days, while Hannah Cleghorn is in Florida trying to get up to 95 pounds, I don't understand it. I don't. And God knows I don't. I don't understand why some people seem to just go through it and other people seem to never have any problems, especially bad people. And Habakkuk said, I don't understand it. It's one loud scream in the book of Habakkuk and even in the book of Ecclesiastes, screaming at the top of their lungs, life's not fair. Life is not fair. In Proverbs 28, it's a foolish king who's oppressing people. In Deuteronomy 24, it's a servant that's being oppressed by the master. In Proverbs 22, it's the rich oppressing the poor. In Ecclesiastes 5, it's the civil authorities that are oppressing the citizens. The Old Testament points out all kinds of oppressions, the treatment of outsiders, the treatment of widows, high interest rates being enforced on the people, false weights and measures where one guy gets a good deal and the other guy gets a bad deal, somebody constantly changing the law so they don't know right from wrong. It's been going on since Genesis 3. In my Father's world, there's unfairness, unjustness, and ungodliness. It's been going on for centuries. It goes on every day. Life is not fair. You and I need to acknowledge that. And you need to get your kids to accept that. Right. That's right. I may have got on to you and found out later that you were innocent. Tough. Tough. Didn't hurt you. Didn't hurt you. Yeah, but you spanked me. Yeah, but that's for the times I didn't catch you. There is evil oppression.